Let's move on to the last subject here. Talk about Empires of Eden a little bit. I never really properly reviewed the album, mostly because I sang on it, but I'm going to talk a little bit about it because even though I didn't sing, even though I didn't sing every track on it, I sang one song. If you take the song I sang off of the album, it's an incredible record regardless. So this album is now, it's out on Massacre Records, but you can also get it in Japan because in Japan it's getting a proper release, and it's going to get a Japanese bonus track, which is a bonus track called Interstellar Sin, which is the song is phenomenal, first of all. And the singer on it is Vo Simpson, who is the singer for Stu's other band, Night Legion. So this record is coming out in Japan. I'm really excited. I don't think I've had anything released in Japan with me singing on it, first of all. So that's a first for myself. But I'm really liking the fact that this Empires of Eden project is finally getting more recognition. Now, this is the second album I sang on in regards to this project. And working with Stu has been a phenomenal thing. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with what Empires of Eden is, there is a podcast and a segment I did record on it, on the podcast. But if you don't want to go look for that, this is Stu Marshall talking about Empires of Eden on the latest interview that we did not long ago. Check out this clip. This is what Empires of Eden is all about. Let's move on to the Empires of Eden, Guardians of Time. So this album, obviously, probably, if I were to take, in my opinion, probably the best lineup collectively as far as singers go. For me personally, even if you took me out, I would think that. But but a really, really great record, from the artwork to the production. I think the quality of the songwriting has been elevated quite a bit on this. And I finally, have able to actually listen to it all the way through. Once I ended up getting the CD and a vinyl copy of this. But let's talk about this album. And you decided to start this project up. I was actually quite surprised when you said you were thinking about doing it again, because I thought it was a thing of the past, per se.
It was dead and buried. So, again, the short synopsis for everyone is Empires of Eden goes back to pretty much 2007. I'd finished in a band called Dungeon and left that band after a pretty big tour with Megadeth, and had all these songs written, but wanted to really get them out there. And I don't sing. So the snapshot of this project is that I called it Empires of Eden, from the ethos that, everybody wants Eden as far as their world, and the dreaming of those kinds of empires is how we view the world, is the ethos behind it. But it just didn't feel right to have Stu Marshall on the cover, because I have singers writing their own lyrics, writing their own melodies, performing all their own stuff, and having almost zero input from me, which is cool for me. It's artistic. So through a range of smaller labels, released 4 albums. Some of those labels were wonderful people that tried their hardest, but the albums just didn't go the way of an Avantasia for a number of reasons. But we just didn't get the label support or any of the touring support. And my publicist at the time, back in 2016, said, look, this thing's run its course. You should probably think about that. And it hurts to hear that as an artist who's released 4 albums. But I sat with it and I went, you know what, you're probably right. So I left those as were, and on we went. Well, then I re-signed Night Legion with Massacre, Death Dealer with Massacre, and Thomas from Massacre said, look, would you like to re-release these Empires of Eden albums? And I fell off my chair. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I love these albums. They're really passionate for me. And we got Udo Dirkschneider on there. We got Ralph Sheepers on there. We got Mike Vocera. We got Zach Stevens. Like, we got you. We got all these different singers. I'd love it to see the light of day. And he said, well, we really love them. Well, we'd like to do a new album. And we'll give you some money. And that was great. And that's what rejuvenated the Empires thing, is that we actually now had a party that was feeling the love of
Sure.
what these albums represented. Because what is unique about these albums, no one can ever take away the honesty. There's no dollar sign connected to these. So there's some pretty weird stuff on these albums, but it's what the singer wanted to represent. You know, what you're hearing, you know, Mike Viscera, so he's saying with Malmsteen and Loudness, he said, look, this is the first time I've ever truly been allowed to just express myself properly, you know, without, and so to hear a singer say that, for me, is incredible, because that's where the art's at, right? Like,
right,
you do your thing, Tony. You know, I've never told you what to do or how to do it. I just present you a canvas that I've created with some colors, and you fill the rest in. And that's what is unique about this. So that's why it came back to life, because we had a party. We are re-releasing all 4 albums that have been fully remixed and remastered, that sound current and really powerful. I was never happy with the production. We never had the money, blah, blah, blah. So we're in a good space with it, and it's in good hands currently, even though I don't have the CD yet. I have the LP, but not the CD. So, but I'm real happy with the album, and I think it represents just a musical palette of everything I wanted to say, how I wanted to say it. I'm real happy with it.
Yeah. So I would tell you that, you know, obviously, you know, the better production, I think the artwork is probably, and the layout is probably the best out of any of those records, to say the least. I was blown away when I looked at the LP. I was like, man, this is crazy how good this looks. You know, it doesn't really do it justice until you actually see it in person. And I was still blown away by the layout of this record. But
the other thing that not a lot of people know about is that I've remastered this for LP.
Yeah.
I remastered this for streaming, and we mastered it for CD. So each format has its own specially from scratch master. So this be my pet peeve with LPs. They just take a CD and put it on an LP. We haven't done that. So you're going to hear something slightly different in the LP version, which I'm really proud of. And I think that's what we as artists have to start doing, is why should you buy the LP? Well, maybe it's going to sound nicer than a CD, you know, or depending on your setup. So yeah, that's an important thing.
I noticed that. And you know, the way that I run if I listen to vinyl, I mean, I have a 2 preamp going into the actual stereo coming from the turntable, and it really sounded really good when I put it on that system. Actually, to be honest with you, I have not listened to the CD. I've actually only listened to the LP, which is funny because I have this 2 preamp that just adds a lot of punch to listening to vinyl, and it sounds a million times better doing it that way. And I have yet to listen to the CD. It's kind of a funny thing. So, but I think it sounds good. And, you know, it was an interesting group of people that were on this thing. So David Reedman is somebody like a few of the people on here, like Louie's been on pretty much all of them. You know, Darren Smith, it's the first time he sang on one. David Reedman singing on it, which I thought was cool. I mean, Sean's been on it before. I've been on one before. Jonas Heiger. So you had some new people that you brought onto this record. I'm just curious what those specific people, what really made you want to bring them as part of this?
Everything starts off in the most innocent way of, let's talk Darren Smith. So I'm a huge Harem Scarum fan, like obsessive Harem Scarum fan. And Pete L'Esperance is in my top 3 guitar players of all time. Criminally underrated, one of the best on the planet. And my favorite Harem Scarum song is a song called Saviors Never Cry, which is just absolutely ass-kicking. And, you know, I just thought I'll reach out to Darren, see if he wants to sing on the album. You know, I had some great AOR songs I've written that some of them I sold to Frontiers. So Billy Sheen used some of my material on his album, his last album. And I had this fun song called When Will It End? And I couldn't hear anyone else but Darren singing it. And I reached out to him, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. I fell off my chair. So it's really been around my self-indulgence. I'm a huge David Reedman fan. You know, the work that he did in Pink Cream, and then also too the Silent Force stuff he did, and you know, great singer, incredible vocalist, was available, and I had a great song for him. That's actually one of the reasons I have to mention. This is the first time on any of those albums I've got my name on the cover.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I put Stu Marshall's Empires of Eden, because I wrote lyrics and melodies to a couple of tracks off this album. The first one is Darren's song, When Will It End? I wrote that entirely, all the lyrics, all the melodies, and the same thing for David Reedman's song. So those two singers were kind enough to sing tunes that had been written for them. So the format of this album had a slight difference to it.
Yeah. I mean, you saw my podcast episode on it. I always thought you should have put your name on there just because you're bringing the whole thing together. You know, that's just my opinion. So
just didn't feel right.
Oh no, I gotcha. You know, one of the things, and I look at reviews of these albums, I always feel that this project always gets misunderstood. Although I saw a lot less of that this time around. And what is it that you believe is the reason behind that?
Look, the first thing is I respect anybody in the industry that's got to sit there and listen to 5 CDs in a row and make a call. You know, CD reviewers have a tough time. I think, firstly, CD reviewers are used to a single band doing a single album with the single singer. And whenever you do something like Empires, they're expecting it to be Operation Mindcrime, which is not unreasonable. You know, a common thread that runs through the whole album with a theme and all that. And, you know, the second last song speaks to the first song. And that's where I think it's not normal to have an album like I've done, where you've got 9 standalone songs by 9 different singers doing 9 different things.
Right.
And I think that's probably what needs to go out in the press release to reviewers is, this is not that. This is not a concept album that speaks to stories or anything. It's in, you know, when Rob Rock sings his song, he writes his song his way, and the next one after it has nothing to do with it. So it might confuse a few people. To be fair, on this album, I think we've hit a pretty wide spectrum of styles, right? Like I've gone from, you know, hammer down, heavy metal, power metal opening to AOR to then, you know, balls out thrash. So that might confuse a few people going, what the hell's this guy trying to do? And I get that too. So, but what's interesting with the reviews is some people really, really get it. And, you know, we're getting some 9 and 10 out of 10s and stuff. And then there's a couple of people that just absolutely hate it because they just don't get it. And I respect it all. You know, I don't make CDs for reviewers. I make CDs for people to turn on and want to enjoy their day with. And, you know, if people dig it, great. Not everyone's going to dig it. But one thing I said before, you can't deny there's honesty in the music. And we don't do it for $. We do it because we're excited about heavy metal. And that's what this is for.
Yeah, I've seen probably the most positive reviews for this album, more so than the other records. And I thought that was actually really cool.
Yeah, and you know what? Everyone watching this, like, take 5 minutes, go to Spotify and listen to it for free. You know, check it out. And if you really like it, buy the LP. It's beautiful. It's worth it. It's a gorgeous insert. It's worth your money, and the CD is incredible too. You know, a lot of effort and time's gone into it. And there's some cool merch and T-shirts you can get, and that's how we do it now. That's how, you know, I want everyone to go and check it out for themselves, make your mind up whether you dig it. And if you do, then that's the way to support, you know. But it's that's my
well, I will tell you, and I'm not exaggerating. You did an excellent job mastering it to LP, to be honest with you. The sound on it was incredible. I almost now feel guilty not listening to the CD yet and then admitting that to you. But no, the LP, in all seriousness, the LP sounds absolutely amazing. And the really cool thing about it is, I have an EQ that's on the actual preamp itself. And I didn't have to adjust really anything. I mean, it just sounded great out the box. But you are right. There are people that do take just a straight digital copy and slap it on an LP, and most people don't realize you have to master it differently for a record as opposed to a CD or even streaming. So but I thought you did a tremendous job on the LP in all seriousness.
Yeah, thank you. That all came actually through pain, because the very first Death Dealer album, War Master, was taken directly from CD and put on LP. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I played the LP here, I was horrified. I was like, "What? Whoa! What's happening?" And then I realized that it had been compressed even further by the LP process. So, we're in the process of fixing all that up too for the future with the new label. So,
yeah, the second Death Dealer though was mastered for vinyl. Because and I'll be honest with you, I have the first one on vinyl. I maybe listened to it once, but I don't remember listening to it again. But I remember when the second Death Dealer album came out, that actually, I was really amazed at how great that record sounded. It really sounded great, and it was mastered specifically for that. That is Stu Marshall talking about Empires of Eden, what it's all about, how the project started, etc., etc. So I think this album is great. It really, really is. Let's take away the song that I sang on for a minute. Even if it wasn't on there, the album is still fantastic. You have so many great singers. I'm looking at the track listing on the back of this. Rob Rock, the title track, is great. Darren Smith. You have a really crazy mix of music. Everything from AOR to power metal to hard rock to some thrashy elements. Immortal Rights has more of a thrash element to it. A lot of great stuff. The bonus track that's going to be on here is really awesome. And Vo Simpson's a really great singer. I actually can't wait for the next Night Legion album to come out. But I'm really excited that this album is going to be out in Japan. The cover art, the layout, Alex Yarbrough, phenomenal job. So I'm really proud of this. The song I wrote, Stand United, basically talking about the political divide and how crazy it is and how this whole divide, how people need to come together. It's really what the song's about. I'm not going to go into too much detail with that, but nevertheless, it's coming out in Japan, and I'm excited for that release. I think it's going to come out later this year. So it comes out on Rubicon Records. That's the name of the label in Japan. Really excited for this. Hey, everybody. Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.